Got my best buddy right beside me. We're going to talk about some concrete troubleshooting ideas. We're going to slow down because it says yield.
Yes. Yeah, like yielding to traffic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Yeah, you didn't say, the yield of concrete. You just wrote yield. And I thought we were just going to slow down. So for you non-Southern people.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so yield, what we're referring to when we talk about yield of concrete is we're talking about when you weigh up a batch of concrete, you're doing it based on weight. And each one of those materials that you're weighing up has a specific gravity that is going to produce a certain number of cubic feet of material, and that all of those different constituents should add up to about 27 cubic feet per cubic yard.
Yes.
Okay. So when you have, I think we have somebody ringing in, Josh.
No, not again.
Yes.
Let's go to the field.
So the contractor just informed me that he thinks he was under yielded. So he thinks you owe him about 9 cubic yards.
All right. So he's saying that we've shorted him. That's the most common yield complaint that I've heard.
Yeah, I've not heard anybody complain that you got too much concrete.
No, not at all. So
I got more than I paid for it.
So what do you do when a contractor is calling?
Hold on. Can we pause just a moment?
Of course.
I understand yield. You understand yield. Concrete guys understand yield. But most people don't understand. So yes, you're adding it up and then divide by 20, so you should get around 27 by the time you divide everything in. I've always looked at when I was describing it to new people when we're testing, like, look, you're looking at a volume. How closely are you matching that volume? And the 27 number is just volumetric of 3 by 3 by 3.
Correct.
So it's just
3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet makes a cubic yard.
yes. So you're just measuring volume. So yield is volume of what you should have to volume what you're actually getting. Best way I could describe it.
That's a good way to think about it. Yes, sir.
So that way as we're going through this. So
Yeah. And some concrete companies might design on 27.0 cubic feet to the cubic yard.
Yeah.
Some concrete companies take it upon themselves to give away a little extra concrete just so they don't have to deal with this. They'll yield 27.1 cubic feet to the cubic yard.
that adds up over time.
It does, absolutely. So when someone thinks that they have been shorted, it is a potential lost customer situation.
Yes.
So it's something that is important to make sure you address their concerns. And to do that, my preferred way of responding to a yield complaint was always to check my own house first.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to start refuting someone without making sure that I didn't mess up or my folks didn't mess up somehow. And so the very first thing that I would do would be to take a look at the measurements or the weights or batch weights from those loads that were associated with the yield complaint to make sure that concrete's getting everything that it was supposed to be getting, and it wasn't a mechanical issue like a hanging gate or something that caused a problem. So that's the first step. The second step for me was always to then, if the concrete placement was still going on, then I would perform some fresh density testing.
Right, to see
and
what your unit weight and your yield is.
And ideally, I'd try to get 3 tests just to try to get an average, of where it's running. And if that checked out, and I'm yielding right at that 27 cubic feet to the cubic yard, then it was time to go out to the job site and have a conversation and begin checking the measurements of the concrete placement. This is the most common, I'd say probably 95% of the yield complaints that I ever ran into was because a measurement in the field was off to some degree. Usually length and width, we're pretty spot on.
Usually depth.
Yeah, it's usually going to be, the culprit's usually going to be an eyeball or a depth kind of situation where, well, I'm using 2x4s as my form boards or 2x6s as my form boards, but they had a big trough in the middle of the placement or something.
I mean, no matter how close you're trying to grade, you're never going to get perfectly level. So you've got some, but generally they're going to be close. But yeah, I have seen some where we had turn down thickened slabs and things like that that they didn't account for. So,
Sir,
and it doesn't take much to be that depth to change things.
it doesn't take much at all. For instance, if you had let's say you had a concrete pad that was 100 feet by 100 feet by 6 inches deep, that's going to figure right at 185 yards of concrete. So it should take no more, no less if those.
If your yield's right,
If your yield's right and those measurements are spot on, it's going to be 185 yards of concrete. If the measurements are off by as little as half an inch in the depth,
yes.
all of a sudden that same placement, 100 feet by 100 feet, is going to take at 6.5 inches depth 200 yards of concrete, or 15 extra cubic yards. At today's concrete prices,
Yeah, I
that
don't
can
want
make
to
an impact. So you can definitely see how someone would get upset if
Yeah,
they think
when you're
that
looking at a truck and a half to 2 trucks different than concrete, they're going to get really mad at the pricing.
Exactly. So those measurement discrepancies are usually the culprit, not always, but be sure your own house is in order before you have the conversations.
Well, we had measurement discrepancies, but there is one that I've seen and you've seen.
What's that?
Elevated decks and deflection.
Absolutely.
And I might have told this story in one of the other videos, but I was on a job where I watched the finisher. I was down at the pump truck, and we had another guy on top because we're measuring slumps on both ends of the pump. And they struck off. They measured it, got the grade, struck it off. And I watched them. I come back later, they're putting more concrete in. He grades it again, strikes it off. About the third time, I looked underneath and I called it to my guy up top, and I was like, "You need to get off the slab now. You need to tell them to quit." Because the deflection of that metal decking was starting to bow. And so in order to hit the grade, they just kept adding it more and more concrete, creating more of that deflection. Now, this was one that they ended up ripping it out because it was a safety issue. The other ones, they dip a little bit. It's not structurally an issue, but now you went from 3-4 inches to 4.5 inches, and that's not accounted for. And it's not because they measured wrong, it's just the form's not holding like it should, so I can give you that as well.
Yeah, I had one where we actually had to come back and shoot the slab after it was hardened to show that deflection was happening. But thankfully, the contractor was very helpful with that. He used his own laser, and we discovered that every yard of concrete was accounted for when you saw the actual measurements. So great point, Josh. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Yield problems are a big customer impact item, and it's always good to make sure that you are giving the customer what they're paying for, but also be ready and prepared to have the conversations whenever they are using more concrete than was expected. Thank you so much for joining us.
Like, subscribe, give us a comment.